And at the end of the day, I think business and life is about two things. It's about net worth and self-worth. And you have to feel good about what you do. And that's only going to happen by making sure that you invest your time and effort and money into things that challenge you and change you. And I also think it's important that when you do that, you create something that you feel moves you to a higher place, a higher potential. So it challenges you to be something better than you were yesterday. And that conservative path is you grow up, you go to school, you get good grades, you graduate, you go to university, you choose what you want to do, you get into that career, you meet someone you love, you get married, you buy a house, you retire, and then that's your life. And that's the standard deviation, right? For the majority of people, that's what most people want to do because it's the most known path. And the road less traveled is about risk. And if everybody took a lot of risks, the variables would be so high that there would be a lot of turbulence in society. But the dichotomy of that is that unless you do something different, you don't innovate, you don't get something different. So you don't evolve. If you don't change and you keep operating as you do now, where are you going to be in the next 12 months to 5 years? And is that person someone you'll be proud of? And if it's not, what do you need to change so you don't end up there? And I think when you can just reverse engineer it and you can realize that if I keep doing what I'm doing now, I'm going to be in a place that I'm not going to be proud of. I think it's up to you to make a decision. And if you choose not to, then you can't choose to be disappointed in 5 years when you realize you haven't achieved the things you really wanted to.
Hey, yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Brainwash to be Broke series. Today's guest is a legit expert at turning what you know into serious income. He's the founder of the Expert Project Group, a serial entrepreneur and the guy behind over $750 million in sales generated through LinkedIn since 2015, which is insane. He helps consultants become highly paid experts with offer that actually reflects their true value. Also, he's a pug-loving, share-sipping Ben and Jerry's fan who somehow makes building a business look fun. Without further ado, welcome to the show, Rana Saini. Welcome to it.
Thanks, Adam. Appreciate you, man. Thanks for having me on and inviting me. Hey, really appreciate it. It's good to be here.
That's amazing. I really appreciate you. And I have a bunch of questions prepared for you, and I'm really excited for this conversation.
Yeah.
So before we start and I start asking some questions, let us a little bit know about you, where you're coming from, what you do, and like how did you get even to entrepreneurship?
Yeah, it's an interesting story. I'll give you the quick footnotes. Like when I first started, I never thought I would ever be in business. If you'd asked me when I was at school, the first thing I did was I was very good with I love public speaking. I did drama and English, and we were I was always interested in the arts. So I went to acting school, and I did basically just loved it. I got employed on some of the biggest TV shows here in Australia. As you know, sometimes it was an extra, sometimes it was a semi-featured role. I went to India and I shot movies in India. But the more I realized that acting was something I loved, it wasn't something that I loved the business of. And long story short, my other passion was health. So I started a fitness business and I started a personal training studio. And that was the first thing that I did in terms of business, the business book that got me inspired to make me think different. And, it's super cliche, right? But it was Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. So for me, it just changed my perspective on what was possible for my life. And so I started my own business. And based on that, I created my first little PT business, and I moved up to near my family, and I grew that business. And I just realized that business was something that I loved because it gave me the freedom and the flexibility to do the things that I wanted, live the life the way I wanted, spend time with the people I wanted. But it also came with challenges, right? And this is the whole thing. It's starting a business. We do it for freedom, but the reality is that you need to lose freedom or sacrifice freedom in the beginning in order to get freedom at the end. And so I really learned, and over the years I learned that entrepreneurship and there's a great metaphor. I don't know about you, Adam, and anyone here who's listening, but one of my favorite movies of all time is Gladiator. And I love the movie Gladiator. And I tell this story often to clients. The way I see entrepreneurship is like a gladiator is essentially a slave that's trained up to fight.
Mm-hmm.
And the theory with gladiators is that when they fight to ultimately win their freedom.
Mm-hmm.
So they risk their life every day. They fight a new enemy. They fight somebody that they're not sure that they can beat, and they have to train and they have to refine their skills. And if they take these massive risks, literally life-threatening risks, they earn their freedom at the end. And I feel like entrepreneurship is kind of like being a gladiator, right? Like when you look at it from the stadium, you're like, wow, these guys are amazing. Look what's possible. They're fighting. It's a great show. But when you're in the stadium, there are days that you are scared. There are days that you're frightened. There are days that you aren't certain, sure. You question yourself, you doubt yourself. But ultimately, the reason why we're putting everything on the line is because we want our own freedom.
Mm,
And I think when I look back on my past and I look at my family, they were employed, they were government workers, and they gave me a great life with the money they had, but we weren't very wealthy growing up. And I always thought to myself as I was growing up, I want to be able, I don't want to be scared of money. I want to I want to be able to feel good about it because money for me was always about scarcity and not abundance.
mhm.
And so when I was growing up, it was always about a scarcity. We didn't have enough, or be careful what you spend. Don't spend too much. Like we've got a budget for the next month. We need to make sure we've got enough money for food next week. Um, and as I grew up, going through university and whatnot, I realized that, whilst money is not the most important thing in the world,
Mhm,
it's an accelerant. And
mhm,
so it is important to understand the value of money,
mhm.
but not be defined by, not make your value be defined by it. So there's a very important distinction there. Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing, and especially the comparison to the gladiator. I love that. This is never heard that before, and this is really really awesome. Um, so when you um begin the journey, or like when you being a child and your parents raised you, did they hand you some type of script that you have to follow, or have they like support you with any vision that you had and just to go the way that you want to go, or it was like more like that it was already preset it for you?
Yeah, like look, I'm half Indian and my mum was Australian. So being Indian, like if you're not a doctor or a scientist, then in some way, shape, or form, if you or an IT computer engineer, like you're like like you're not a valuable member of the family or community. Yeah, that's cliche, but my dad was a doctor. Um, my mum was always very encouraging of whatever I wanted to do, and ultimately so was my dad. I had family that wanted me to do well. Obviously, every family wants their kids to do well. And I think as a parent, I can understand that the way they assumed that I would do well was if I got a good job and I went through the education system and I graduated from university and I got into a career that was like medicine or accounting or something like that, and it was stable and secure and you could just make a good wage and life is good, right? And that's obviously what you want for your kids. And I think the world's changing a lot, and especially when I was growing up, uh, my idea of success wasn't always. I mean, I didn't do badly at school, but
Mhm,
I wasn't the best. I didn't receive the best marks in school. But I've always been creative, and so for me, my passions always come down to being just to it's always been around people and helping people, and that's always been a big part of what I've thrived on. So my parents didn't hand me a script, but
mhm,
there was certainly an expectation. I think that you'll go through school, you'll graduate, you'll get a job, and then you'll be fine. And then as a parent, you can sort of tick the box and say,
mhm.
I help my you're successful.
Yeah.
Uh,
What
yeah,
did you like when it happened, when you realized that this is not actually the way you want to like, follow, that you don't want to be like anybody else, that you want
yeah,
to do something meaningful in the world, and want to help people to have better lives and so on. Because
yeah,
go ahead.
yeah, yeah. No, I don't know if like honestly, I don't know if there was ever a time where I was like, I think when it happened was when I graduated university and I realized that I was acting, for example, is very much about you have to make people that you don't necessarily care about like you. It's all about
Mhm,
validation.
mhm,
If you're in with the right crowd, you're in with the right people, then you succeed. If you're not, it's very difficult. And the business of acting I didn't like. But the one thing I kept coming back to was this idea of like helping people with their physical health because I've
mhm,
always
mhm,
valued health.
mhm,
And I think it was at that time when I graduated, and even as I was going through uni, the gym was a place where I felt really good,
mhm, mhm.
and I could see how it helped me. And I was a little bit overweight when I was a kid, so I realized like how much it helped me.
Right.
And so there was always this seed, this kernel that I thought health helped me, like the gym helped me, and I wanted to help other people with that.
Mm,
And you know what it's like, Adam. You help people, you do it, you get a lot of fulfillment seeing people grow and develop and lose weight or feel
mm,
better or change their life or run events. And then as I finished that, I realized that that's the thing that makes it worthwhile for me. The impact that you have is, like that's something that I don't think I could have got if I just was an accountant or a lawyer, and there's nothing wrong with that because you do help people in a different way, but it's just not the way that resonated with me.
mhm. Yeah, I'm loving this conversation already. This is super awesome. I want to go deep into a little bit of because most of the people, and like the world's evolving, everything's changing, the situation is different than from people like from our like for our parents that they've been in the school, and pretty much they are still teaching the similar systems or similar
Mm,
things in the schools. And I can see it even now, like for example my girlfriend brother, he's still in school, and basically he's still learning the same stuff that we've been taught when I was in school. What is your
yeah,
take on that? Because most of the things that are even like we never been taught how to actually operate with money, how to use money, how to
mm,
how to make successful business. They just taught us how to become a good employee. And
yeah,
this is one massive untold topic. And not many
yeah,
people are actually talking about it. And lots of people I think would be really interesting to know what is your thoughts on this with, like a successful business owner, and what would you change if
yeah,
that would be possible for like if you would make the changes.
yeah. Look, I think the word we live in a world where there is a lot of people and there are a lot of variables in the
Mhm,
world. And the only way to make sure that things run smoothly is there's this thing called standard deviation. And standard deviation means that you have to create, with all the variables that there are, you have to create like a standard.
mhm,
And when there's standard, there is some level of control, measurement, and consistency.
mhm,
I think as the world progresses, um, we have to be equipped to operate in a society where there are certain rules and regulations and there are certain expectations and um, for that standard deviation, the majority of people, will probably follow a very conservative path. And that conservative path is you grow up, you go to school, you get good grades, you graduate, you go to university, you choose what you want to do, you get into that career, you meet someone you love, you get married, you buy a house, you retire, and then that's your life.
yeah,
And that's the standard deviation, right? For the majority of people, that's what most people want to do because it's the most known path.
mhm,
And the road less traveled is about risk. And if everybody took a lot of risks, the variables would be so high that there would be a lot of turbulence in society. But the dichotomy of that is that unless you do something different, you don't innovate, you don't get something different. So you don't evolve. So you don't have things like rockets going into space. You don't have innovation in technology or AI. You don't have the evolution of fuels or green energy, or you don't have these things. You just have a standard set of skills. And so in the bell curve, you're always going to have people who sit in the middle. You're going to have people who don't want to be defined by what is normal, and they go to the top, and they're the ones who are just that they are the antagonists,
mhm,
they are the disruptors, they are the entrepreneurs, the true entrepreneurs. They're the people that aren't satisfied with the status quo of anything. They see something and they think they can do it different or better. And then you've got people who are at the other end, who are the people that are forever complaining about the way things are, but they never do anything different. And I believe that in in the world of entrepreneurship, in the world of business, uh, we and school and education, I think we need to evolve the education system for sure. I think it's very easy, as I think society right now is evolving faster than the let's call it the government or society can evolve because it's too slow. The rules are too slow. Would you right now want to put your child into a an accounting degree, knowing that right now in the next 4 or 5 years, most of that's going to be taken over by AI? Would you go into a degree where even to a degree law? Would you want to spend 5 years or 6 years in a legal to learn to become a lawyer when in 3 or 4 years? So I think old thinking is that standard deviation, that whole this is what everyone else does, so I'm going to do it like that, because if I do it like that, I'm accepted, I'm validated, people will approve of me. It's the road, it's the easiest path. And what I think is that the disruption that we're finding at the moment is that it's everything is evolving fast because of technology, the technological revolution that's occurring, and that's shifting things really quickly. And I think we've got to be careful that we don't put ourselves into positions or our future into a place where what we do today is redundant tomorrow. So we've got to start thinking different, but it's always up to us.
Mm,
Standard deviation is a recommendation. It's
mhm,
not a determination. It's not,
mm,
you're not limited by what you should do. You're always limited by what you choose to do. And I believe that as entrepreneurs, the fundamental aspect of being an entrepreneur is disruption.
mhm,
So education may give you some tools. It may give you some skills. It may help you meet people, connect with people, find people with common values. But ultimately, I think that education is not something that defines you.
mhm.
It's something that we use as a way, as a reference point. Um, but we've certainly got to evolve that.
Mm.
That's changing fast.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's insane to see how the evolution's happening and everything's moving so like towards so fast, and you can see it from like to compare those these eras from past. It like somebody was talking there about like topics like when we've been in the technology era and so on, like how long it took actually to evolve, like go through that era, but now it's shorter and shorter and shorter, and it's like the world's evolving so fast, and yeah, the system there is that it's just insane to see like that people are still going and learning the same skills
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
has like nothing to do actually most of the time with providing value and knowing like okay there are some exceptions, but it's pretty insane to me to see. And um would you say that we are from the beginning, we are like, if you follow the original path, we are set up to actually fail? Would you say that?
I don't know if we're set up to fail because that would mean that everybody that would go through the system would be quote unquote a failure. I think whether you fail or succeed is not something that my belief anyway is not something that someone else determines.
Mm-hmm.
I believe whether you succeed or fail is something that you determine. And I do believe that the intention of the system is in a sense to try to give everybody a fair standard go. But I believe that we're often put into positions where maybe to think differently, be different, and feel different is not necessarily accepted
Mm-hmm.
and or rewarded,
Mm-hmm.
which is the tough part, right? So if you go through school and you have to be A, B, C, one, two, three, but you see something different,
Mm-hmm.
it's not about being set up to fail. It's just that you can't expect to be rewarded in a system that where that rewards or rewards behaviors according to the standard deviation. Because if you are the standard deviation, then you are average. And there's
Mm-hmm.
nothing wrong with that. You're following the path. Whether you fail or don't fail, it's up to you. But to be exceptional,
Mm-hmm.
it means that you have to be an exception to the rule.
Yeah.
And often that means that you won't get the approval of your peers or maybe the system. You won't get accepted as quickly or easily as if you just followed the path that everyone else
Mm-hmm.
follows. You'll get criticized because you think different, and and I think that's the challenge of being
Mm-hmm.
different.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you're set up to fail, but I do think you are set up to have to learn to be resilient and
Mm-hmm.
grow a thick skin
Mm-hmm.
and validate yourself. And I think in a way, in a weird way,
Yeah.
if you use it right, it actually can make you stronger.
Mm-hmm.
You just you
True.
just you've just got to remember that, often doing what everyone else does is not going to be
Mm-hmm.
the thing that's going to get you to a place that no one else can experience
Mm-hmm.
because you can't you've got to do different to get different.
What would you say to somebody who is literally like deciding if to go to study university and take students loans or something like
Yeah.
that actually like, because this is for me is like, I'm glad that in our country when I've been raised we don't have students loans, but
Yeah.
in USA, England, I don't know,
Australia.
Australia,
Yeah,
There
we
are
do.
students' loans, and this is insane to me to spend money on something like that they promising you to have,
Yeah,
this successful life when you're going to have actually the paper in the end. And
yeah,
what is your take on this? Because the students' loan, that's not the first thing that actually, or last thing that actually come on your radar along the way, because you would like to start your family or something, and there
yeah,
you need to take, like, if you want to live independently, you just need to invest or borrow money into some type of house or living somewhere. That's another one. And then you
yeah,
are like trapped in deep in debt, figuring
yeah,
like the life out and trying to pay all of those money, and you
yeah,
basically end up in 60 or 70, like debt free, and
yeah,
trying to live the
yeah.
free, like trying to figure out the freedom or something. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
what is your take on that?
Look, I think university and student loans in some cases are there's a couple of variables, right? So, Adam, first thing is if you want to become a doctor, you probably do need to get a loan because,
Yep.
I wouldn't want someone to operate on me that learned how to be a surgeon
No doubt about
from,
that. Yeah, yeah,
YouTube,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so there's a part of me that's like, cool, I think in some cases, like an engineer, you want to learn how to build a bridge or a building. You don't want someone who's learned how to do that from a Lego course. So there are some exceptions to that rule. I think though, most of the time, and there are a lot of examples of this, like in the arts and things like that, where people education is important.
Mm,
Student loans and the interest on those loans, um, the economics of education and loans, and putting the pressure on people that when they graduate with a debt, but the society doesn't pay people. The economy and the inflation and the cost of living and the CPI does not, and even like affordability of housing
mm,
cost, and when the market conditions or the government conditions, the way that government spends money, um, puts society or the community that you're in into a place where it makes it impossible to pay back that loan. It really doesn't make sense in a lot of cases to leave with a $40,000, $50,000 debt and the interest on that debt when, for example, if you do an arts degree, the guarantee of making an income to pay for that is not it's not about guarantee, but the chances of you making money in that field are probably low. And so, I think if education is a business ultimately,
mhm.
and so they are wanting to make a business out of it, and governments obviously, with us in Australia, they speak to us. We have a thing called HEX, and our HEX debt is basically you get you you're left with a loan. So when you start making money, it's almost like a little tax. You got to pay that back, and that's a burden for a lot of people when they're trying to get ahead in their early life. For sure, it's something that most people, it's like any debt. You don't realize it's there until you go to earn. You get your first paycheck, and you're like, "Holy shit, where'd my money go?" It's like, okay,
Yes.
it's gone to pay back that loan that I got. There's interest is being earned on it. So, I think in a lot of cases, it's not. I think the premise of higher education student loans is good because it gives people who can't afford it a way in to educate themselves. I think if that's the case, we also need to set people up to win. So, like if you do a nursing degree and you come out and you're earning minimum wage as a nurse, but you've got like a $60,000 or $70,000 debt, and you want to get ahead with a house, I don't think that's a reasonable expectation.
Yeah.
I think we've got to have a more holistic view about how
Mhm.
debt and education and the feasibility of somebody
It's
earning a
playing
living
pretty
comes
much,
together.
yeah, it's pretty much playing all together. What would be the subject or something that you would actually wish that somebody taught you at the beginning stage, like something that was missing? For example, money, or like, how to operate with money, or how to operate with debt, or something like that. Like, because this is like topic that nobody's teaching us in a
Yeah.
school, right?
The challenge is, Adam, that money is something that people want, but people don't want to understand the economics of money. Like
Mhm.
I totally I agree. I think money and tax and investment and compound interest and asset, like building assets and income from assets and capital growth and you know yields and all of the things that we look at. I think it's important. I think commerce in general is a very boring, dry topic. But I think it's important. I think financial literacy is something that's important, especially if you want to get into business. What I wish people talked. I think where we would generate more, like emotional intelligence is something that is not everybody has.
Mhm.
And so I think you've got IQ, which is to understand numbers, and you've got EQ, which is to understand emotions and
Mhm.
empathy.
Mhm.
And I think school sets you up in a way to give you a little taste of everything.
Mhm.
I wish if I go back and go, I wish I had have learned. I
Mhm.
definitely think learning financial literacy should be a I think there should be a test before you go into business. I think
Mhm.
we should all understand how money works and how to make money with money and invest. Um, but on the other side of that, I feel like the mindset behind money is something that people don't have, like where they spend their money, where they invest or don't invest their money. I think uh, where people expect it's instant gratification for things. If I spend money now, I'm going to make money tomorrow. And when they don't, then they get upset. So I think understanding having an investor's mindset is critically important. I wish that, like I said, Robert Kiyosaki was probably the first thing that helped me with that and understand how money makes you money. Like invest in assets. Assets, income follows assets. It's not working for money. Time for money is not going to make you rich. You put your time into making money, put that money into assets, and over time, the assets make you money. I think that is incredibly important. I wish I'd been told
Mhm.
that sooner. That book was, like I said, it was a turning point for me. And although it doesn't translate perfectly into Australian economics, it
Mhm.
was simple enough. We have a thing here called the Barefoot Investor. He's another guy. It should have been that should be mandatory reading for our like young people in our country. It's a general overview, but it's very smart. It's important. Yeah.
Mhm.
So I wish I'd known that.
Yeah, yeah. So the money topic is it's insanely important, and I actually started with studying money, so I was pretty lucky. Actually, I would say that I jumped into investment and so on at the beginning stages, but my
Yeah.
mindset at that time was like, I need to have money to invest money, so I need to jump into
Yeah.
something that's actually going to produce me more money in shorter period of time. So that was my vision of, because I don't know, most of people jumping into business also, I would say, to actually, just um, like they are searching for the financial freedom and so on.
Yeah.
But for me, is like business for me is like a vehicle that actually going to bring me more money in a short period of time. But I'm not going to use those money to actually spend them or live from that. I want to use them to actually
Yeah.
invest. So either I'm going to reinvest to the business if the business is going to look, way that actually going to bring consistent income and so on, if it's stable
Mhm.
and so on. And then even and part of it, I'm going to for sure investing
Yeah.
into like real estate or this type
Yeah.
of different vehicle that actually brings the state more stable
Agree.
income, I would say. I don't know if
Yeah.
you, what is your take on that, if you do something like that, and if you can talk about this a little bit. What is your mindset about using money, and how you would like
Yeah.
that would actually help somebody who is actually like figuring this out?
Yeah. I think a lot of people don't understand the value of their hourly rate first and foremost, Adam. So when you start a business and it's your time for money. It always is. So your experience, your expertise, you put into a vehicle and then you sell that experience and expertise for money, depending on whatever modality you use, whether it's a, one-on-one coaching or it's a service-based business, it's done for you agency, it doesn't matter. First thing you've got to know is what's your hourly rate. Once you know your hourly rate, then you can understand the value of your time. And people don't get rich by trading time for money.
Hmm.
They get rich eventually trading their money for time.
Hmm.
Like, sorry, yeah, time for money doesn't work. It's money for time. So you can buy back time.
Hmm.
I think once you're able to buy back time, where you invest your money, because you can compound that, you can, if I've got more hours in the day, whether it's through people or processes,
would you
I
would you
generate
say
more income.
would you say that you need to get financially free, you have to disconnect money and time to make
Yeah.
financial freedom?
Yeah, because we're conditioned to do a 9 to 5 job, and then once you hit 9 to 5 o'clock, you can go home and you're done. And I think in business, it's not 9 to 5; it's often 5 to 9, and to start with anyway. And then you buy back your time, so the value of your time goes up because where you spend your time is yields you the highest rate of return. Now, the caveat for that is as you generate income and revenue and profit are not the same thing. So how much you make and how much you keep are not the same thing. So when you do make that revenue, you often want to pay yourself. When you do pay yourself and you've still got money left over, that's where you can invest that profit. Now, the question would be, what's the best return on that investment? Is it property? Property is secure, it's safe, capital growth, income from rental, it ticks some boxes. But then there's also tax. Is more income beneficial, or is it maybe offsetting some of your tax? So you've got to understand, do you want an income producing asset, or do you want a tax offsetting asset? So in some cases, the best thing you can do is invest back into your business. Because if I look at our business, I can get a 10-to-1 return on my money. So every time I put a dollar into the business, I get a 10-to-1 return. So
Many
year on year on
people,
year,
many people, I would say that they would think that this is insane. This is not
yeah,
possible. You know what I mean?
yeah. Yeah, but it's because people can't track it. And if they
Mm,
don't track it, they can't correlate it. So even if, for example, I said to you, say, for example, your business was making 10% every year on year on year, you could look at the numbers and it was making 10%, which you go, that's not a lot. If you put $1 million into that business and you come back with, $100,000 cash out of it, why wouldn't you put $10 million into it? So you come out with, $1 million. You're like, I think what people do is that the size of the number scares people. But once you understand numbers, what you realize is that if your business is returning 10%, 20% profit, like it's producing that, why wouldn't you put more money into a business and get a 10 to 20, 30% return, right? Which is higher than people who go, well, I'm going to put my money in shares. And you go, well, if you can get a 10% return on your business, but you can only get a 5 to 6% return on shares, it seems silly, right? That you would invest in anything else other than your business. That's not to say that diversification is not a smart, is not a silly thing to do, right? But business is unstable,
mhm.
property is
Stable.
relatively
Yeah.
stable. So offsetting your risk by investing in property is probably a smart move as well. But what I see a lot of entrepreneurs do is they grow their business and they start investing in real estate and everything, which is fine, but their business isn't solid enough yet.
Mhm.
And I think you can invest in so many things, but you should be investing in your business first. Get it to a
Totally.
point where it's doing seven figures, which in today's age, it's not that difficult to do.
Mhm.
I don't think anymore. And then once it's producing, you know, 10 to 20, 30% return, that's a that's a pretty decent return. You double down on that every day of the week.
Right. That's
Yeah.
insane. Yeah, totally. Because, I would say to that, lots of people using the diversification to properties to actually overcome tax payments and so on.
Yep.
Because
Yep. Absolutely.
um, but anyway, I know we are running out of time. I would end this conversation here. What would you say to somebody? I'm just going to give you just a few rapid questions just to
Yep.
bring even more value for listeners about like, what would you say to somebody who would be on the fence or not even on the fence, but starting or growing business? What would be, for example, let's say for the starters, what would be the best steps to start a business, and what industry they should probably focus in on your take at the moment to actually like start raising and so on.
Um, I think every business comes down to the model. I think people need to understand the type of model that they have. There's a couple of rules here. One, the business you start will not be the business you end up with. So don't think you have to start perfect. I always say start ugly and then make it pretty. Second thing is you're always going to find the least leverageable way to make money first. Easiest way to do that is trade your time for money. Do everything that people tell you not to do. Try not to solve problems that don't exist yet. Oh, I need to make it scalable. Well, you only need to make it scalable when you're making money. Don't try to make it scalable if you're making less than 100 grand. Make it unscalable before you make it scalable. And the next thing is understand what your IP is. Have a system and have a process. Most people end up bottlenecking themselves in their business because they haven't productized or prioritized the system in their head. Their experience and expertise has not been put into a model um, that is replicable and systemized. So over time, as you're coaching people, you realize, well, or you'll provide a service people, you'll realize that you're doing similar things each time. So the first thing is, I would say, start ugly, make it pretty. Don't try to solve problems that don't exist yet, and turn your experience and expertise into a system or a process that makes it easy for you to deliver your service. So that over time, you end up being able to operate more efficiently and then therefore more profitably. That's how I would look at it, Adam, to start.
Would you say what would you say to somebody who's got like this mindset roadblocks that keeps them before, like really performing on their top level? What would you say to them to like overcome those struggles of taking an action?
Yeah. I would say to somebody like everybody, right? The opposite of potential is comfort. And every day you can make a choice, right? It doesn't matter. Reality doesn't discriminate. You either make an action to move toward your potential or you make a choice to make yourself comfortable. There's no right or wrong. It's just that at the end of the day, a couple of things are going to matter. You know, uh, you look at money, time, and lifestyle. And at the end of the day, I think business and life is about two things. It's about net worth and self-worth. And you have to feel good about what you do. And that's only going to happen by making sure that you invest your time and effort and money into things that challenge you and change you. And I also think it's important that when you do that, you create something that you feel moves you to a higher place, a higher potential. So it challenges you to be something better than you were yesterday. If people are blocked, Adam, and they're not doing it, the question I would ask somebody is, um, who do you need to become to achieve the thing that you want? Because mostly it's around behavior. And if you don't change and you keep operating as you do now, where are you going to be in the next 12 months to 5 years? And is that person someone you'll be proud of? And if it's not, what do you need to change so you don't end up there? And I think when you can just reverse engineer it and you can realize that if I keep doing what I'm doing now, I'm going to be in a place that I'm not going to be proud of. I think it's up to you to make a decision. And if you choose not to, then you can't choose to be disappointed in 5 years when you realize you haven't achieved the things you really wanted to because you chose comfort over courage. And therefore you don't understand the purpose that you could have had with your potential. And I think there's always a cost, the cost to do something and the cost not to do something. And you just got to accept the tax that you choose to pay on either one.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your wisdom. This is insanely powerful. I'm really, really appreciate you. Where people can find you, to say thank you, start following you, just, yeah, start
Yeah.
hanging out with you.
Yeah, you can go to expertproject.com and have a look at what we're doing and how we're helping consultants become well-paid experts. Or most of the time, you can find me on LinkedIn. That's where I spend a lot of my time with the clients that we work with, which are consultants. So LinkedIn or even Facebook, either one of those, follow me there or reach out and say hi.
Thank you so much. For everyone who's listening, if there's still something in you, don't ignore it. Share it with someone who needs it, subscribe, leave a review, and remember, you are born to follow the script, you were born to be free. Bye, everybody.